Hey guys, it's Chris with Tech Vibe. Today we're going to be looking at some pre-build PCs that you should probably be considering in early 2022. If you're in the market for a new PC, whether you're wanting to build your own or you're looking at possibly a pre-build, I'm going to be showing you some PCs today going from 4K to 1440p and 1080p, and I'm going to be talking about the parts in them and kind of trying to give you guys an idea of what you should be looking for. Now, the PCs that we'll be looking at today are going to be my own recommendations and what I feel are actually fair as to the price being asked and the parts that are actually in them. And we'll be going over those parts that are in these PCs and trying to give you guys an idea of what you should be looking out for if you guys want to go with a different PC other than what I picked, and kind of the price range that you should probably be looking at. So we're going to get into it now. So starting off with our most expensive pre-build of the night, we are going to be trying to go from most expensive to least expensive throughout the video. And if money's no object to you, this is going to be a fantastic PC to go with. If you're looking for some 4K action and you just want to play whatever game you want to with no issues, this one's going to be able to do it. Now, this does come with the 3080 Ti, and there is some controversy around this card as to why it even exists. And we've seen the 3090 Ti actually be announced recently. Hasn't been given too much information just yet, but it's out, it's coming, and we know this. But the i9 1100 900KF actually comes as a CPU in this, and this is one of Intel's most top-of-the-line CPUs for just regular type of gaming and computing. Now, it does come with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 3200 megahertz. Now, this will be decent enough for the CPU that we actually have in here. I would prefer to see something more like 3600, but 3200 will be good enough. It does come with 1 terabyte of M.2, and that is going to be enough, at least starting off, to be able to hold it's a good amount of games for you. Now, this does have a PSU of 850 watts gold, and that would be at minimum what you should be running in my eyes when we're talking about 3080s plus. I personally would like to see 1000 watt in here, but it'll be able to handle it. It is meeting the minimum power requirements, and that is something that you need to consider when you are working with pre-builds here. They will be trying to ride the lines of things, and that's just, this is how it's going to be. They are trying to make money. Unless you're doing a pre-build that you select every single part that goes into this thing, this is just something that you can expect to see. If we're talking about PCs, I think that at a minimum, you're going to need 16 gigabytes of RAM. I would definitely have 1 terabyte of storage, just because it's very easy to go over when we're loading these things up with games. So if your goal is to just powerhouse and run whatever game you want, this is going to be able to do it. This is a good one. For our next 4K PC, we do have the Skytech Prism 2 Gaming, and this does come with a Ryzen 7 5800X, so we are getting a little bit better of a CPU as far as multi-processes go. Now, this does step down in graphical power here with the RTX 3080 instead of the Ti, and we are still rocking with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, we are dealing with a Ryzen PC or CPU here, and those tend to like higher clocked RAM, and this still comes with that 3200. I would like to see 3600 in this. If you are considering going your own way and trying to build this out, I think 3600 megahertz is a better spot to be in, but it'll get the job done just the same here. So, and we do have the 1 terabyte of M.2. I like to see that. As far as our power supply, let's see what we have. 850 watts. We're riding the line there in my eyes, but it will get the job done. So this is going to be a good one to go. We're spending a little bit less money here while we're losing a little bit of graphics power, but as far as the difference, which is not very much when we're talking about the 3080 to the 3080 Ti, $300 off is honestly a pretty good deal. So this is a good one to go with if you're trying to save a little bit of dollars but still want to be able to play 4K, no issues. Next up, we have another Skytech PC here, and this one is going to be dropping down in price here a little bit more, but As far as graphical power here, we are kind of at trading blows. We have the 6900 XT here, and this is able to compete with the 3080. There are multiple games that this kind of trades blows in with the 3080, but just depending on how the games are actually optimized, you might actually see a little bit better performance with the NVIDIA card, just because how they're actually optimized for games, or more likely to be optimized, just because it's just how the market has been. Now recently that started to have a shift, so if you're Team Red and you want to go a full AMD build, I actually think this is a really good price right here. Now this is not going to be able to use the same sort of super sampling that NVIDIA uses, but NVIDIA has been working on their technology and they're progressing it, so I don't think this is a bad one to go with if you have no problems running with Team Red. I don't think this is a bad one. It's very good price. Honestly, this is a good price. I don't like that I see the 750 watts. I would rather see the 850. So we do have some skimping going on here with the power supply, which is definitely, you're gonna see that in some pre-builds because guys, they are trying to make money. But I like what I see other than that. So for our last 4K PC, we have another Skytech PC coming up here, and we have changed around our CPU. Now we're running with the 5600X, which is going to be the lowest option in the Ryzen 5000 series. Still a very good CPU. Do not get this twisted here, guys. This thing is still very powerful, so don't scoff it off in any sort of way. And when we're talking about 4K gaming here, you're not typically going to be bound by the CPU when you're running these more beefier GPUs. Your bottleneck tends to be the GPU itself running at 4K. So just keep that in mind as well. So here we are, have another 3080 in here, which good, that's going to be great for 4K gaming. 16 gigabytes of RAM, clocked at 3200 megahertz. Would prefer to see 3600 when we're dealing with Ryzen 5000 series, but 3200 on a 5600X is still going to get the job done. It'll be able to run itself by any means. Don't worry about that. 1 terabyte of NVMe storage, M.2. Still good storage amount. Like to see that on a B550 motherboard. Now I do not like that they're running a 750 watt here, and this is probably why we are at this price. Would like to at least see an 850. Riding the line here. It's still gonna run, guys. I've had people that have bought this exact PC and haven't heard of any complaints so far. So as long as you're not overclocking its brains out, should be just fine, should be okay. But if you were going to replace something yourself, I would consider definitely looking at a better power supply. So for our first 1440p PC, we have an ABS Gladiator with an i7 11700-700KF and an RTX 3070. Now this does come with 16 gigabytes RAM, which we definitely want to see for any sort of modern gaming. Just the way that games are demanding now, that you want to see at least 16 gigabytes of RAM. It does come with Intel's more newer i7 with the 1100 series, and it does come with an RTX 3070, which is a very great GPU. This is capable of still gaming at 4K, but for all intents and purposes, we're trying to gear this towards what we would most likely see people use it on, which is 1440p gaming, because a lot of people want to be in competitive spaces and they typically won't go above 1440p. This one is very capable, $2,300. It does come with Wi-Fi, has 1 terabyte of storage on the M.2. Does have an AIO in it. Looks as if so it comes with a gigabyte AB partner card, which is gonna do its job. It's gonna get the job done. There's no complaints that I've seen with this thing. VR ready. Now, in my opinion, you should never spend more than $2,300 on a pre-build containing a 3070. I just don't see where that's justifiable unless we're talking about bunch of other excess crap. But this is a good price for this. I would like to see this more on the $19.99 side, but this is gonna still be good side. But if you can find one for $1,999 or just under $2,000, I think that's a good pickup, especially if you're getting these kind of parts that we're looking for: the 16 gigabytes of RAM, 3070, 1 terabyte of storage, and a decent CPU, whether that be a 5000 series or a 10,000 series plus Intel. So for our next PC, we have a 3060 Ti, and we are dropping dramatically in price here, which I don't think should ever be a problem for anybody, but we are coming with the i7 1100 700F. Now this does have a 3060 Ti in it, but this is a very value card. This thing is very powerful for the price that is being charged for it is absolutely ridiculous. So seeing this PC here for this price, I think is a really good deal. So it does have the 16 gigabytes that we like to see, 3000 megahertz, which is going to be just fine. When we're talking about Intel, they don't really necessarily need the high clock megahertz that Ryzen likes to see. 1 terabyte of storage, so also good there. Power supply is 650. Now we do have a 3060 Ti in here, which does not draw near as much, so this should be plenty for what we are needing. So this is going to be an excellent 1440p gaming PC right here, and the price is pretty good. I don't have any complaints here. I think this is a really good deal. Next up, we got another 3060 Ti PC, but the difference here that we are seeing, even though it is the same price, is we have a Ryzen CPU in here, but it is not a regular Ryzen CPU. We have an APU in here, so this is going to have integrated graphics on board, which does a couple of different things for you guys here. Now, if you, for whatever reason, wanted to take the graphics card out of here and sell it because you needed money, you would still be able to use this PC for even some gaming. It may not be as intense and FPS capable, but it will still be able to play games at 1080p, probably not that 1440p, at least what you would want to see in reasonable frames, but it's got one of the newer APUs in it. So guys, I think that's a pretty good value considering this is still a good CPU and does have a pretty decent integrated power graphics on board. So something to consider here. I think this is a really good deal with those different features available. Still 16 gigabytes of RAM, 1 terabyte M.2. I think this is a good pickup, all things considered. Now we are getting into our 1080p PCs, but I did want to say with this one, even though it doesn't really follow my parameters as far as what I like to see with the RAM, this one appears to be a pretty decent deal from what you're getting. Now it does come with one of the newer CPUs with the Ryzen 5000 series. The 5600X only comes with 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is definitely a complaint for me. I like to see 16 no matter what across the board, but it does come with an RTX 3060, which is going to be able to handle 1080p gaming no problem. Still can do 1440p gaming if you wanted to push it, but for the most highest frames that you could get out of this thing, 1080p is what you're going to usually see people use this GPU for, so we'll just keep it in that category, but it is 1440p capable. 1 terabyte of NVMe storage, definitely like to see that. This is going to be a pretty good one for sure. It's going to have high CPU power, which if we're playing at 1080p, 5600X in there, you're going to be doing pretty good. So this is a pretty good one, but I would consider possibly getting a better RAM kit. That would be my opinion. I just think that this should at least have 16 gig. It is what it is, guys. They gimp out on some things so they can make some money. For our next one, we have a Skytech PC, and this one is coming with the i5 10400F. Now this is going to have the same price here, which I personally believe the other one's better to go with it having the 5600, but this does actually have the 16 gigabytes of RAM in it that we do like to see for sure. This one does come with Wi-Fi, has a 600 gold power supply in it, which is the same for the other one. The only difference here that we're seeing is that change out in RAM and the CPU, which the CPU is still going to be able to perform. Still a good one, but the 5600X is going to be better. Now for a lot of you, this is where we get into the more affordable side, which is just perfectly fine. I don't expect everybody to go out here and spend thousands of dollars on PCs. It's just not realistic for everybody, and not everybody can do that, which is just fine. So we're going to be talking about this PC here, which is a CyberPower PC. Does have an i5 11400F, which is 11 series Intel CPU, still a very good one. Now, I've said before in the past, I like to see 16 gigabytes of RAM. This one does not have that. It only has 8. I think it's very worth your while to put 16 gigabytes of RAM in this PC here, but it also does come with an RTX 2060, which is going to be last generation GPU. But we're talking about 1080p, guys. So this is still going to be a very good GPU. You guys would be very surprised as to how much a lot of this older hardware is still able to keep up with a lot of these newer games. This is still going to do very good. Now, it does only have 500 gigabytes of storage versus the 1 terabyte that we've been seeing, but we're going to see some changes in hardware when we see prices drop dramatically like this. We're talking about almost a $700 difference. So guys, this is a very good PC to go with, especially if you're just trying to play some games at 1080p. This is going to be able to play them at a decent FPS. We're talking 60 plus if we're trying to go high settings on most games. This should be able to handle it. I again recommend that you go with the 16 gigabytes of RAM every time, but this is a good pickup. It really is. This is probably the best price that I've seen with this power in quite some time. If we're talking about just 1080p gaming, I don't think you should be spending more than $1,200, honestly. But if you're wanting some of this newer hardware, whatever, you do what you must. So this is my take on things. So for the cheapest PC we have for today, this is going to be an HP Pavilion. Now, I realize that this is not as flashy and as good looking as the rest that we've seen, but guys, price on this thing is dramatically less than what we've seen as well. Talking about $730. Now, this does only have a 1650 Super in it, but guys, I did a recent video not too long ago where I built a PC from one of my subscribers' daughters. It had a 1650 in it, not in a Super, and this thing was still able to play good games at 1080p. I was running around in New World playing at 40 FPS on high settings. Guys, this thing can still get stuff done. If you're wanting to play some of these newer games, I would not be worrying about too much, guys. Now, it does only have 8 gigabytes of RAM. Like to see 16, guys. I'll say it all day. 16 gigabytes of RAM for more modern gaming. I think it's well worth it for you, especially if you're trying to play games like Warzone or even trying to play Fortnite. It's going to see some benefits out of this. Now, this does only come with an i3 10100. Now, that is going to be on the lower spectrum of the Intel for their 10 series. Now guys, like I said, this is not as flashy, but it's not the worst looking PC out there, and it's going to be able to perform. Now, it does only come with 256 gigabytes of storage, which I would consider a couple of upgrades on this thing, such as the RAM and upgrading the storage a little bit. But guys, this thing's going to be able to get some things done, and we're not paying an arm and a leg on this thing, which is good to see. So guys, that's going to be my picks for pre-build PCs you should probably be considering in early 2022. Now guys, I will have other PCs that you can check out in the description. You can click on, I'll have some information on them. You can check them out and make your own decisions. I've given you some of the parts that you should probably be looking out for when you're doing some pre-build shopping, or when you're just looking for PC parts in general for building your own. But these are going to be good, solid picks that are a bit more modern and going down the list and trying to make them as affordable as can be. So guys, if you do have any questions, please ask them. I do not mind helping, guys. If I'm unable to get to you or I'm not getting to you fast enough, guys, join the Discord. I have plenty of people in there that are more than willing to help out, smarter than me, know more. They don't mind helping. We do our best to help out here. That's what I try to do on this channel. So hey, if you're not subscribed, hey, hit it. Come on, join the family. Get on in here. We love to have you. That's all I got. Roll it.